All right, y'all. Welcome back to this is episode 7. This is for all of my alpha brothers out there. This is the jewel episode of the Bigger Than Food podcast. Now we've been gone for a minute, getting some things together, but we're back for our episode 7. Man, I'm excited about this one, and the reason why I'm excited about this episode is because I got my friend, my frat brother from U of H, University of Houston, AW chapter. Got my boy Ples, who's doing amazing things in Dallas. And when I tell you, when you see the work that he's doing in Dallas with bringing people together with food in South Dallas, Oak Cliff, you will be impressed. But before we get into talking directly with him, I'm going to show you some of his work because see, we like results, right? I'm going to show you some of his work and let you see what you are going to expect in this conversation that we're going to have with my brother Ples.
It is something that definitely needs to change. There are a world of excuses of that the population density is not high enough, the per capita income is not high enough, that people don't even the idea that people don't want the access or they wouldn't value the having access to that fresh produce, that if it was there they would not buy it.
He has an apple or an orange or anything that he's eating, if it has the smallest seed in it, he wants to put it on the side in a plastic bag and say, we're going to grow this. I want him to know, even if he's stuck out somewhere, he have a cucumber, he's eating a cucumber, or he's eating a bean, or he find a bean on the ground. There's always sun, there's always water. Nature is life. We can't live without.
All right, y'all. Look, I told y'all. We working with results around here. I told y'all. So I want to welcome to episode 7, my brother, my friend, brother Ples Montgomery the fourth, to the Bigger Than Food podcast. Welcome, brother Ples Montgomery the fourth.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no problem, man. I think if you have, that might be a little bit echo. I don't know if it's me or you, but got another device going. But beyond all that, man, let's get into this conversation, man. We I think, man, what is that? Was that 2000 when you got to U of H?
No, I got to U of H in 2002 is when I started at U of H, and I crossed in the spring '04 line, 5 Warriors of the Sphinx.
There we go. We ain't gonna belabor the audience with all those great experiences we had on the yard back at U of H. But so you're originally from Dallas, right?
Yeah, I'm originally from Dallas, born and raised. My family, my father was born and raised in Dallas also, and so I grew up here, lived here until I graduated high school, and then went out and ventured forth out into the rest of the world.
Okay.
And so the work that we're doing here in Dallas is very near and dear to my heart. And coming back, I was able to find some passion in my work and be able to really, I think that it's good work to do, to where you can leave a space better than it found you, rather.
Yeah, I think if you might want to come closer to your microphone so we can hear you a little bit better.
Right.
So, all right, now. Let's kind of back up a little bit and talk about how you got to the place of going back to Dallas and getting involved in food apartheid. So what led you back to Dallas, and how did it start where you decided that, you know what, I'm going to get involved in food systems and fooding people? Like, let's go back to the early parts. What was the early parts in making that decision, early days, and you making that decision?
Okay. Can you still hear me good?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So going back to Dallas was when I came back, when I left from Houston to come back to Dallas, I kind of needed to change the pace. I had kind of done all that I could in Houston, and so in moving back to Dallas, I was kind of trying to find where I stood and what I needed to, what I wanted to do, what felt good for me to do. Really trying to find myself again, and I bounced around I had several jobs, but I was working in corporate travel at the time, and my mother actually started this whole thing. She got a word that said that she needed to feed the people, and it kind of started out as a little family project. to basically provide increased access, with the goal was to provide increased access to fresh produce in the southern Oak Cliff neighborhood. The specific neighborhood is known as Singing Hills, and that's where this whole thing started. Was an effort to increase access to fresh produce, which is something that happens in areas that are known as food deserts, but are actually in what we call food apartheid, is what's happening in those areas. Um, but the most well-known term is a food desert. So when she started that, I was still working in corporate travel, and then I met a guy that was I ran into a business that was I was helping her out every once in a while, and then we were found by a group called Feed Oak Cliff that had started the first. They had started the first kind of like food and health and wellness festival that was ever happening in Oak Cliff. A wonderful lady, sister by the name of Andrew Sanders. She started Feed Oak Cliff, and she found us and invited us to come out to that event where we provided free fresh produce to the community there. And it was at that point that we were like, okay, how can we take this thing to the next level? What kind of impact do we really want to make? What is really happening in the food space in our community, in our city, and how can we really make an impact? So we decided from that point to incorporate as a nonprofit with the goals of continuing to increase access to fresh produce, creating what we call community cultivation spaces, which are aka community gardens, and then providing education in between both of those activities about how people can cultivate their own fresh produce, and as well as prepare it the proper way so that it maintains its nutrition. It continues the cultural legacy of food that our people have. This rich cultural legacy of food that we have, and just to make it fun and bring us together and back to the kitchen. Like food is where everything happens. The dinner table, the breakfast table, like that's where we find each other.
Right. There's a lot of community through food, and you use the term called food apartheid. And what people seem to mainly recognize is the term food desert. It's a common term, but the true term for Black and Brown communities is food apartheid. And that to me is the best term to use, because food apartheid was a systematic approach to remove resources from areas that they wanted to deem as, I would say, no value. I would just use it as a better term for now. Describe what Oak Cliff was like growing up. What was Oak Cliff in the environment where your mom said, you know what, we need a place to provide access? Lay the visual on what the community looked like, and then before, and then when you got started.
So growing up, there was actually, when I was growing up in the Oak Cliff area, and Oak Cliff is a big swath of the Dallas Metroplex area, like Dallas County specific, or excuse me, the city of Dallas. So if you live in the Dallas DFW area and you have a Dallas address, there's a 50% chance that you actually live in Oak Cliff. And so Oak Cliff is everything like south of downtown Dallas, where the river comes across downtown Dallas, and all the way down to Interstate 20, north and southbound, and then bound on the east and west by Loop 12. It's commonly referred to as Ledbetter in the southern sector of Dallas. It has several different names depending on what area of Dallas that you're in. So east and west, but it is a very large swath of the city. And when I was coming up, there were actually more grocery stores in I would probably say about in the western side of Oak Cliff. But Oak Cliff has always been a very diverse community. It's gone through its changes like any other community, where we have it was majority white folks there, and then there was areas that were majority Black, and then they switched places, and then a larger Hispanic population has come in recent years, during the time when I was coming up through high school, and then there's areas now that are in North Oak Cliff that are being regentrified again, where a very large white population is coming back into those spaces, and that is where we see a lot of the focus on where Oak Cliff is not. If you look at Oak Cliff there, it doesn't look like a food desert there, but in other areas of Oak Cliff, it is very much so a food desert, and a food apartheid is happening. And so that what that looks like is that not just lack of access or lack of access to fresh, healthy produce, specifically is fresh, healthy produce, because food is everywhere. And by food, we're talking about fast food restaurants, grocery stores, corner stores, anywhere that you can go in and buy something to eat. However, it's the health and wellness that food actually provides that defines whether you are living in an area that is under food apartheid, and that's what we see in the majority of the southern and eastern sections, and indeed some of the western sections of Oak Cliff. And so we've had several grocery stores have left the area in the past 10 years, and the what's available at the grocery stores that are still there, in the corner stores and places that are defined as grocery stores, but they don't actually have they don't have a fresh produce section, or they will have a very small fresh produce section that is not very well maintained due to a variety of factors, the access that those grocery stores, the willingness of those grocery stores to hold those things, um, and so that's where we found ourselves in uh, wanting to provide this chain of access to fresh produce, and to understand like that we figured out when we first started this thing, how we figured out, okay, after really looking at it, saying, okay, this is why we need to be we need what the Veggie Project is offering, because and we're not the only players in the game by any means, but that's how we found out this is where we are, where we're at in the Oak Cliff area.
Okay, so when you're looking at trying to pull partners and people together, because to me, I firmly believe that food is the tool that you can bring people together on. I firmly believe that.
Agreed.
I want our audience to understand more about how you are building partnerships and capacity. So when you and your mom were sitting down and trying to determine who are the partners or people to work with, what was that strategic conversation like?
So my general philosophy is to just I have a pull up philosophy. Like uh, when I basically started researching what was happening. So I started taking jobs when I left the corporate travel job. I started taking jobs within the food industry. So I worked with Fresh Point, which is one of the largest wholesale distributing companies in the country. I worked on the retail level of fresh produce distribution with a wonderful company in Oak Cliff. It's like a 5-generation Oak Cliff family, called Ann's Health Food Center, that they provide organic produce and products, and also supplements to the community at various locations. Now they've grown by leaps and bounds over the past few years, and so the conversation and the action was to go out and see what is happening. So I took it upon myself to go to the places. I started volunteering at Big Tex Urban Farms, which is located in Fair Park, to learn how to do the things that we wanted to do with our program. And so the strategically, it was just, let's go out and let me go out and get in the mix, and then also meeting with people at the Dallas Veg Fest, which is the festival that Feed Oak Cliff puts on. We were able to meet the people where they were at, and indeed, a lot of the strategy came from having these free produce distributions, where we were meeting the communities right there, and they were saying, we were giving out some produce that they had never had before. They didn't know how to prepare, and in talking with the community, we were able to find out what it was that was going on, and then we started getting invited to more events, more health and wellness events, community support events at with other nonprofit organizations that do education. And in talking to folks there, we were finding out this is what it is that is needed to support not only access to fresh produce, but the folks who are in the community who are wanting to grow their own. So churches who have gardens at the church, folks who own vacant lots and say that they want to set up a cultivation operation on those vacant lots, and so on and so forth. Schools. Um, that is how we kind of came to that. That's how we found out, by being out in the community and finding out this is what the community wanted, and how we could best support those drives to increase that access in the way that the community felt was the best to do it. Because indeed, in the in the effort to empower a community, that has to come out of community. You can't go into the community, even if you're from there. You can't go out and say, "Hey, I got the answer. I know what y'all need to be doing." You have to re-engage with this community, because I was gone for many years. I left Dallas and was out, so I had to come back in and re-engage with the community and find out. And this is where we find out. This is where the problem lies, that we have folks from outside the community want to come in and say, "Do the X, Y, and Z, and we'll be in control and just tell you what to do," when that's not an empowerment program. And that was the other strategic choice that we made, a very conscious choice. We wanted to be an empowerment organization, so that we are not just another charity nonprofit saying that relies on the communities that it wants to influence and serve to stay in the same position that they are always on. We want to eventually fire ourselves, so to speak, like build an organization that is going to empower people, and that eventually we will be fully in a support mode rather than in a, "Hey, let's get started" mode.
That is, I don't know why my is echoing. So let me talk through this, and I'll fix the technical issue I have. Talk more about empowering people and building trust.
So this is the most important part of the work that we are doing, and that some of my mentors and other organizations that I've had the benefit of encountering and working with. A brother, just this last weekend, a brother named Maliki Kenny out of Detroit, that has been doing this work for many, many more years. He is a true elder and leader in the work that in this kind of community agricultural work that we are doing, and has kind of the idea of empowerment. This is the whole thing, from any resistance movement, anything that steps out of the fabric of capitalism, that wants for a community to be able to do for self-determination, programming, or anything of that nature. This is the whole thing, because what we don't want is to create situations where people are still in need, and as soon as that branch, that olive branch that is being reached out, or whatever program is set up, if that program goes away for whatever reason, then now these families and these individuals, they find themselves back in the same position with no way of coming out of that. And so any organization, any movement that is community based, it is going to be, it should be about empowerment, and that's what we wanted to stand for. We are very early on started making sure that we were partnering with organizations that were about that. There's a great group here called Harvest Project Food Rescue, that is a completely like volunteer-led organization. They rescue produce that would normally be just discarded and thrown away because of the way it looks, because of how long it's been at the warehouse waiting to get to a place. And it really highlighted, we want to work within the areas where there are problems within the system, where these challenges arise. And that's how that's the other side of empowerment. You look at these challenges and you see them as the opportunity to create the real change that we need, because we don't actually have a food, and then is there enough food problem? There's plenty of food to go around. And fresh produce for that matter. The issue is the aggregation and the management and the distribution of that produce within the context of capitalism and racism, white supremacy, and that's where we wind up in food apartheid situations.
Expand on that.
So there is about a roughly the 30 to 40% food waste issue, right? Within, so all the food that is, because everything that we eat is grown somewhere, is whether it's an animal or a plant product, that is grown somewhere. Do I need to mute for this to try to get rid of this echo?
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. So that means that somewhere between where the food is cultivated at and your plate, your dinner plate, the grocery store, the wholesale warehouse, the restaurant, the country club, the corner store, the theme park, the wherever you can stop and get food at, almost 40% waste is happening within the context of that. And that is a direct result of the Western capitalism system that we find ourselves in, because capitalism, as we currently know it and exist, says growth and profit generation at all costs. And that means that there can be 40% waste, but as long as a small section of the people, a small section of the industry that provides for this food system is making enough profit, then that 40% waste is acceptable. Even if people are going hungry, even if people are not getting healthy, are dying from systemic diseases that are based on the dietary choices that they find themselves in their environment, because there's no fresh produce in their neighborhood, but there's unhealthy food choices available in their neighborhood, and those food choices are they come from that produce that comes from somewhere for them to make the burger and to make the bread and to make the lettuce, like all those things, whatever it is that's not really healthy for them. It starts there. It starts on our farm, and our farm. We do not value the capitalistic system. Does not value the farmer. It does not value the people who are working on the farm. It does not value the people who work in the system in between the farm and those who are consuming the food. And that's where we have to break down, and we have the biggest opportunity for change within our system. And it can still be, I believe, and I don't know exactly how to make it happen, but I believe that we can make an equitable system for the distribution, so that everybody has what they need and everybody is making living wage within the scope of that system. And then the racism, white supremacy portion is where we find the food apartheid, where certain areas are, because they calculate whether or not a grocery store should be somewhere by the number of houses that are there, the per capita income, crime rates, education levels, credit scores, all of these things that shouldn't have anything to do with whether people have access to fresh produce at whether it be a grocery store, a corner store, what have you. And that's where we end up with the food apartheid, because that is where a system those who are in control of these systems decide this area with these group of people is not as valuable as this area over here with this other group of people, where the numbers may be starkly different. Like the numbers in Oak Cliff for crime rates is actually lower than certain other areas where there are like 3 or 4 big chain name grocery stores in walking distance of each other, like within the same zip code. But if you ask them to set that up in these other neighborhoods, they're like, we don't think this is not going to be successful over there. Like, there's not enough money. And the other thing is that from on an economic standpoint, whether you are economically affluent or economically depressed, if you have a 4-person household, you're spending the same amount of money. The studies show that you spend the same amount of money to feed your family. The only difference is that if I'm in the economically depressed household, I also have to spend extra money on gas, or it takes me 3 extra hours because of the public transportation system to get to a place to spend that money. So now I'm spending that money outside of my community. I'm spending more time out of my life, and the choices are not as readily available for me.
So this is political.
Yes, it is, and it's always political, and it makes the conversation hard to have because of the way politics work. But it definitely is. It definitely is there. It's political. It's cultural. It touches on several aspects of life within a community in a city.
All right. Let's turn the corner.
Right on.
Do you remember the first time someone smiled at a food distribution setup?
Yes, and it was actually some of our volunteers that came out. Those are the first smiles that I remember from the food distributions that we did, because they were describing what we were doing as healing, and that they felt very safe and very welcome in the space that we had created, or that we were in the process of creating, and that we did indeed go on to create. And this is something that I didn't even realize, that on the working in the nonprofit sector, when you go out and volunteer with a large or a small scale nonprofit or whoever that that you may not feel like you are actually welcome, even as a volunteer, when you're going to do some kind of philanthropic work, or that you're not safe in that space. And that is something that is very that was very very new to me, because I'm personally I'm very good with going into a space and not worrying about whether about something like that, whether I'm safe or whether I'm welcome. Again, I'm on the pull up. Like I pull up and go and see about doing what I need to do, and just keep going from there. So that was probably the first like the first smiles I remember seeing, and that made me feel some kind of way there. And then the smiles of the when we first set up, we were set up in a farmer's market style. So people would pull up, they park, get out, get into a line, and kind of walk down a table of produce and decide what they wanted out of there. And we are actually looking to go back to this model because with the advent of the pandemic, we had to switch to a kind of a hands-off type thing. And this is indeed, like, this is actually one of the things that we're trying to fight against. Like, we're trying to create community cultivation spaces where we're sitting together and we're backing down this level of fear from each other, and getting back to know each other, so where you know your neighbors, and you know that you're growing tomatoes, and you know your neighbors are down there, they have chickens, and y'all can swap out the eggs. It makes everybody much cooler with each other. So the other smiles that I remember first seeing was the smiles of individuals who didn't know each other in the community, but were exchanging information about the fresh produce. Like, somebody would say, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this eggplant or this bok choy," and then somebody behind them or two people down, like, "Oh yeah, it's just like any other green, and you can cook it like this, and you season it up with that," and these very genuine and organic conversations that came and allow people to meet and talk with each other that may not have had any other reason to come into contact.
I love it. I'm gonna work on this technical echo. Talk about the connection between building community in the way that you are to our African ancestry and heritage. Did I lose you? I lost you. Uh-oh. Looks like we lost audio. 1 second, y'all. All right, y'all, give us 1 second. We're going to take a small break. And we'll fix this audio, and we'll be right back as we continue the episode 7 of the Bigger Than Food podcast.
It is something that definitely needs to change. There are a world of excuses of that the population density is not high enough, the per capita income is not high enough, that people don't, even the idea that people don't want the access, or they wouldn't value the having access to that fresh produce, that if it was there, they would not buy it.
He has an apple or an orange or anything that he's eating, if it has the smallest seed in it, he wants to put it on the side in a plastic bag and say, we're gonna grow this. You know, I want him to know, even if he's stuck out somewhere, you know, he have a cucumber, he's eating a cucumber, or he's eating a bean, or he find a bean on the ground. There's always sun, there's always water. Nature is life. We can't live without.
All right, we're back. How's your audio? Your looks like your microphone's on mute. So I want to just continue on. You know, is that bad? Yeah, it's like when your mic was on, I echo. So I wanted to continue on. We'll log back on here with Ples here in just a second. But the reason why it's important that we have this conversation about food systems and apartheid is, as you were listening to him talk, he was talking about how food brought people together and having conversations. Because even in that conversation, you probably heard the connections through intentional systems that were created to pull resources out and lower property values. But then at the same time, you had development in different areas. One thing I learned from listening to Ples is I didn't realize how big the Oak Cliff area was. Like, to be that large of an area of Dallas, and it's basically compartmentalized. So for those of us who live in Oklahoma City and familiar with the Northeast Quadrant, you heard some very similar things to what's happening here in Oklahoma City, on the east side, Northeast Oklahoma City, to what's happening or happened in South Dallas or Oak Cliff, in different compartmentalized areas. So when we think about these topics and what's happening in other cities, there are a lot of similarities and also opportunities for us to learn from the work that other people are doing. So it gives us the opportunity to reach out and to expand beyond our familiarities and our knowledge base of how do we build community, and food is just one way that we can do that. So let's continue the conversation with Ples, and let's figure out what it is that we could, some other solutions that we can do to actually build camaraderie and community through food systems. So Ples, before you unmic and come back on, the question that I want to pose is, there's this big conversation about opening up new grocery stores. I think that the common solution that people come up with is that we have to build a grocery store. We have to provide access to food in a way that comes in the form of grocery, right? Which is it's a part of the solution. But based on the work that you've done, what do you feel like are some of the root solutions of the root causes of food apartheid and communities that you're serving, communities that we live in?
So some solutions that we are definitely working towards are, again, all based in, they have to be based in community empowerment, and that starts with education and understanding, and indeed looking at what other communities are doing. Again, there are great, amazing operations. I had the chance to travel to Atlanta last year for the BUGS conference, which is the Black Urban Growers conference, and see some of the work that is being done in the city of Atlanta to again combat the same thing. And this is how we're going to find solutions, because this is not just happening in one area. So outside of grocery stores, we have to have the access. So empowering our families, our Black landowners, to use their with the resources they need to use their land to cultivate more produce, setting up connectivity and logistics operations that are also Black owned and operated to connect those farmers with the major markets that will allow for them to generate a living wage from and a living lifestyle from the food that the things that they are cultivating, whether that be meat products or plant products. And then providing the most important side of this is the education within the community side, and that starts with partnering with the schools and any other educational programs that are out there, so that our youth understand where the food comes from and what it truly takes to create food that that everyone, I think everyone at this point very much so takes for granted, how easy the ease of access with which we have, even within the area suffering under food apartheid, the ease of access to some kind of food really takes you outside of keeps you from understanding what it truly takes to be done. And then one of our community gardens is located in what's called the 10th Street Historic District, and the 10th Street was one of the original freedmen towns in the Oak Cliff and Dallas area. That still has some of the historical buildings there. We're working on getting markers put up so that the historical relevance is there. And this speaks to, again, to empowerment. These were communities that were formed because the people who lived there were not wanted anywhere else. And so they had to set up their own grocery stores and their own hospital systems and their own sense of care and a community camaraderie for each other. And this is the thought process and the understanding that we have to get back to in order to empower our communities and our families to build and take care of themselves. Then the other side of all this is, of course, the political, stepping back into the political side is the reins being taken off from where for how hard it is to get permitting for certain activities to happen on land that citizens of a city might own, and the types of businesses that can be set up and then bringing the people back into it. Like we need to look at other business models outside of straight up like LLC and traditional business models. So there's a business model called a co-op that I'm not sure how many people are familiar with, but this is one where it is a community-based investment in it. And so you don't have to have $1 million to invest in a company. You can be a community investment member where you pay $5 into your co-op operation and into the co-op operation, and then you're able to benefit from that. And you also it's a democratic process, a true democratic process, because you get a vote in that system on certain areas of the operation. So you get to influence how this business actually operates, not on every level, but on some levels. And this is another empowerment. I think this is another great example of community empowerment programming and operations that we need to look at and get back to. This has to be a multi-generational approach, because my parents' generation, you cannot, pretty much everyone from that generation will tell you that wherever they're from, that they spent some time at some relative in their family, whether it was their immediate nuclear family or their extended family. Somebody was cultivating. They were growing their own stuff, and whether it never made it outside of that community, or it was part of some business that they had set up, that where it did get out of that community, is that that's something that we want to come back to and have our elders engaging with our youth in order to provide that cultural and historical context, and have the adults and the warriors within the community being out in the fields doing the heavy lifting and the hard labor portion of it to set up these infrastructures, and engaging with the business, all of our new digital techniques and technologies, to bring that to the forefront and get the understanding on both sides, so that we can do this in a very efficient and effective manner.
People who know me in the work that we do as OKC Black Eats, and now we have our Bigger Than Food Foundation 501c3, is I am unapologetically loud about being Black owned, Black led, and supporting Black owned businesses. And what I love about what you're talking about is in the Oak Cliff Veggie Project, y'all aren't straying away from being connected to those other tentacles that are important in building community. Food is being used to bring people together. That's starting conversations. Those conversations lead to, hey, we need to go find whether it's a Black builder, or we need to find a Black landowner, we need to find a Black vendor, we need to find somebody that can connect to these ways that we are growing access to food. But in more than in more than just generating this access to food, you're actually able to support the economics of a business and a particular community. For me, when I look at statistics here in Oklahoma, it shows that this is some numbers from OK Policy back in 2021. So about 2 years ago, I'm sure new information is coming out. That 1 in 6, I believe it's 1 in 6 African Americans live in poverty, versus 1 in 8. So even when we're talking about accessing food, whether it's grocery store or going to farmer's market or buying gas or transportation, medical costs, whatever, the parts that we have to make sure that we include, which I love about supporting other Black-owned businesses, is the workforce part of that, and not straying away from creating opportunities that allow people to increase their not just livable wages, but they can thrive and have income to not be in poverty-like situations. So if you could talk a bit about what you've noticed in the number of maybe vendors that have come on board, other Black-owned businesses that have come on board and supported your efforts in South Dallas.
So we are still at what's a very much growth phase. We're still at a kind of a growth phase. However, we do have the support and have worked with many other Black-led nonprofit organizations. Again, the major challenge is where are the other Black-owned businesses within the full spectrum of the food system? Because it's not just about the person who's growing it. It's not just about the person who's consuming it. There's a whole range of opportunity challenges to build community that are going to allow us to build the community empowerment that we really need, because we need the Black-owned wholesale distributors. We need the Black-owned food processors that can take your peppers and help you process it into a hot sauce or a salsa, and everything in between. Even if you're just or freeze dry so that you have a Black-owned line of frozen vegetables that can be sold within the community, and also outside of the community, because that is how the true community empowerment, that's the other portion of how true community empowerment is going to have, when our communities have the ability to export a product, the same way that we have folks that are not from our community who have businesses set up in our community and are extracting our wealth outside so that it's leaving. So all the business that we do are with folks who are taking their money and going into another zip code or going to somewhere else, it doesn't stay right there in the community. And beyond that, we have to be able to export outside of the community, because just on a numbers population thing, we're not that big of a portion of the population. So we have to have something where we're going to attract in others, and that's how we maintain, that's how we build the balance that other communities have been able to find, because they're able to find support and from an economic standpoint from other communities. And so there are several other farm operations that are opening up. Again, we do not have Black-owned grocery store. There's a great new business that just opened up. It's called Grow Zone Farms. They're actually down in the Midlothian area, but they just opened up. They're doing hydroponics, and they have animals that they are cultivating, rabbits and hogs and chickens. There in the Fort Worth area, there is Tabor Farms that is actually owned and operated by Greater Mount Tabor Church in the Fort Worth area. They have a big swath of land, and again, this is where the understanding, because we have folks in our community that have the resources, we have other people that have the vision. It's about putting those people together to understand what can truly be created from that. So they are on the pathway to have not just a farm there, but building a farm stand there so that they can sell directly from the land that they already are sitting on. They don't have to go and let's go and build a whole grocery store. I mean, that's part of the vision also, but creating these opportunities and these businesses within the context of the resources that you have. So again, a Harvest Project Food Rescue here in the Dallas area, Feed Oak Cliff they are working very diligently to create the community-based grocery store that operates in a co-op fashion, and again, educating our people about these different business opportunities and the way that they can empower a community and allow everyone to have equity and access to the resources is truly the name of the game. Because at the end of it, if we are not creating something that is empowering and that is stepping us slowly away from the way that capitalism dictates that businesses and economics and communities are supposed to operate, then we're moving in the right direction and we're having the right conversations. Oh, You're muted.
Oh, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so we're about 5 minutes out from the podcast time being over. But in the very beginning, you talked about your mom and how she got started. You talked about you even made mention of you were looking for something. You were kind of finding you're finding yourself, not find yourself, maybe that's not the word, but you're starting to pursue this purpose or calling that was coming out of you. In that, what have you learned about yourself through this effort of building community through food?
So I have learned that I have much more, a greater level of strength and resiliency within myself. That I am much I'm much more I'm friendlier than I look at certain times, and that 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 working together, working alongside other people of maybe different but still similar vision and background is not only possible, but it's necessary to really make this happen. Um, there has been so much work that has gone into this, and again, I say that the Veggie project is still at a growth phase. So we are still a completely voluntary operation. We haven't moved into the point where we've raised enough money to employ anyone just yet. All the money that we have brought in goes into the operations and building infrastructure. But what I have learned in that is that it is that if you have the vision and the drive, and you show up again and again and again, like mine is pull up. And the people who I first started working with, and when I was first trying to figure all this out, they were like, Ples he just kept showing up. He just kept showing up. Shout out to our girl Darcia Houston. She was one of our original board members to start the Veggie project, and I learned so much from her, because she's a great cultivator in the here in the local area. Not native to Dallas, but lives here and is doing all the great work to change the community and herself for the better. I love her to death, and love her to life. And so that she helped me learn all the great people that I met. Like they taught me about myself and what I have within myself to make all these things happen. There's another great group called Fit and Faithful Living. They're a youth mentorship group, and they take kids they teach them about yoga and DJing and cultivation, and they take them on trips to other cities. And these are kids that might not have this opportunity otherwise. And they brought me in, and like I made the first money from teaching about hydroponics to youth with that organization. And they showed me that I could be that I could be good at teaching, and gave me the opportunity to hone that as a craft. And so I've all these things I've learned about myself that I can do, that maybe I thought that teaching is not for me, or being in because I'm kind of a reluctant leader, like I have this vision, and everybody's like, okay, Ples, and friends, and even my wife now, like when she first met me, she was like, oh, who is this little light skinned guy that's up here directing traffic and telling everybody what to do, and he seems like he seems cool, but also sounds kind of mean. And so that is like, I'm learning that I can sound very, very, very mean and aggressive, but that I actually have a great deal of love and camaraderie within myself, and that when when given the opportunity and presented with the challenge, that I can step up and be of great service and assistance to those who are looking for a safe and healing and good space to be in, to make some changes, that want to see change and want to empower community.
Okay, so there's a lot that people have said or misunderstood. When you say Oak Cliff, of course they think about a song. Oak Cliff, that's by, yeah, we'll just keep on with the lyrics. Y'all can y'all can look it up on Spotify. They go hard to paint. But I mean, you have these stuff that you read in the media, you Google things, and we were in the Bishop Arts District recently, South Dallas, Oak Cliff area. And when you Google will tell you a lot of negative things about Oak Cliff and not talk about the beautiful history. You see media portray Oak Cliff in this ugly, violent way, where what we know, being around, living and being Black and in our communities, we see the beauty in things. We recognize the greatness in what we have and what we do, even from meager beginnings and even having meager offerings, and how we've been strong and sustained. So for somebody who doesn't really know Oak Cliff, that doesn't understand South Dallas, who never taken the chance to go and explore and understand, versus listen to what stories fabricated by the media, what do you want people to know about Oak Cliff? Like, what do you want them to understand? Like, this is what South Dallas, Oak Cliff is. This is what we are.
I want people to know that, first of all, Oak Cliff is beautiful. That it is a space. The people there are beautiful. The landscape itself is absolutely amazing. Like, you go from there's so much open space. Like the when you think about a neighborhood and a suburban area that is like everywhere in Oak Cliff is just like 10 minutes away from the downtown area, and the homes are the homes, whether they're older homes or smaller starter homes or larger homes, like they're so diverse. Like, there's very few neighborhoods where you see this kind of exact same type of building of buildings of homes built there, and over the last, I know definitely over the last 10-15 years, the neighborhoods are so much more diverse than I think they have ever been at any time in Oak Cliff's history. I remember learning about how downtown Dallas was supposed to be on the southern side of the river, not on the north side of the river where it currently sits. And I want people to know that whatever that it is very diverse. Like, you'll see the area of Oak Cliff that's closer to downtown, you see a lot of gentrification, and you see different types of, you see smaller streets and you see more compact neighborhoods. But then the further south or the further west you go, you see more wide open lands. Like, there's 2 universities in the Oak Cliff area. There's an airport in the Oak Cliff area. There's some of the best home cooked, down home food you've ever had in your life. Like, institutions that have been there for years and years in the Oak Cliff area. And this is a range. This is not just in the northern Oak Cliff close to downtown. Like, you got to go deep into Oak Cliff to see and find these things. And there's so much opportunity and so many great people. Like, the teachers that work in these schools that just this year, after 20 years of being ignored by the district, they recently got some bond money in, and they're making improvements to the school. But the teachers, like, I've worked directly with teachers who were like, just come on in and let's do the program, because our kids need to see this. So they would open their doors, and even if it meant they might end up getting in a little trouble after the fact, they wanted their kids to experience what our program had to offer, what other nonprofit or education groups had to offer, that it was going to take too much to go through the official lines and red tape. And so they put themselves on the line, and they work within the craziest industry ever.
organizational structure ever, and but they do what they have to do, and the majority of them they live there, like they're also from there. So we have a lot of the teachers that come back, like they grew up in there, and they want to come back and make it happen. The alumni that put their heart and soul into making sure that the schools get what they need, and I want people to know that it is a community that, regardless of what you hear, it is cared about by those who grew up there. We are working together to build a more resilient and more unified community, regardless of what our background, our ethnic or cultural background is, and that it's our hood, and we're not going to stop until we make it the best hood that it possibly is. Even that word hood has a negative connotation, but it is, when we say hood, what the people of Oak Cliff want and are actively working towards is a neighborhood where we know each other, where you can send your kids out to the community pools and leave them there all day, because the kids that are lifeguarding there and that are managing there, they're from the neighborhood. Your kids are in elementary school. The kids that are working as lifeguards are at the high schools in the community, and they know each other and they know you, and they can walk the kids home if they need to, and we are working on bringing the resources there. So I just want people to know that there's a lot of love and a lot of life and a lot of beauty in Oak Cliff, and we are a resilient and determined people, and we make some great food.
That is a fact. That is a fact. One of my good homies runs Dub's Grubs. He covers a lot of the food scene in the metro area. Definitely covers the spot. So I love how you're talking about Oak Cliff, because from a personal place, I'm often in these. I'm in predominantly white spaces, whether it's in leading or something. Just our city, period, it's a small Black population, and having to educate and tell people about what you thought, what you perceive about the Black experiences from a distance. And so what we've done is we've used OKC Black Heats in a way to have those conversations, because in the very beginning, when I would want to go have lunch with somebody when I first moved back to the city, we moved back to Oklahoma. I've never lived in the city before now. People would want to meet, but they would want to meet adjacent to whether it's the east side, right? But now we sit down at lunch or dinner, and I look at their responses, and I tell them, look around you. What do you see? And take it all in. And I've had people tell me things like, I don't understand why I've never been over here. I don't know why it's taken me so long. I didn't realize it was this diverse. I'd never been to many restaurants where the chef and the owner come out and talk to you and shake your hand. Because in most restaurants outside of our community don't do that. The chef doesn't come out and talk to you. The owner is probably not there. If they are there, they're hiding in the back. But that's symbolic of our familial and tribal experiences, where it's family reunions or going to grandma's house on Sunday, or the gathering you have on Saturday playing with your cousins. That's that connection we have in culture. So to hear you talk about Oak Cliff in that way is just like any Black experience anywhere else. And the reason many Black communities are divested is because it was intentional legislation to remove resources. Current day, there are intentional resources to limit resources. We have nonprofit organizations that don't look like the community, have expanded their boundaries to get more money and funding, which limits the ability for those who are in our community who actually deserve the funding. So when we talk about food, we have to talk about food not just in feeding people, but in educating on what other supports and means that we need. Political in nature, supporting the right candidates, holding current candidates responsible, supporting our leaders, cultivating the right leaders that need to lead in certain areas. So it really does warm my heart to hear you talk about Oak Cliff in that way, because I wanted people to know we were just in Dallas and at the Omni Hotel. And when you said it seemed like that the river was moved in a way to redefine a boundary, well, that's not uncommon, right? So I really enjoyed, this conversation with you, man. I love seeing the growth, and from when we first met and knowing you on the yard, and then seeing all the work, the disruptive work that you're doing in Oak Cliff. And I want you to close us out with, where do you want to see communities grow in areas like Oak Cliff? Where do you want this to grow to? What do you want this to become?
First, let me say that, like, shout out to everybody that's from Oak Cliff that came up and went out into other communities. And the first thing they were hit with when they told somebody they was from Dallas, and the person be like, "You from Oak Cliff, right?" And they had this thing, and you were able, like, you were like, "Yeah, I'm from Oak Cliff," and you were able to show them something different than whatever that they was expected. Like, keep doing that thing. Keep shout out to all those folks. And those are the people who are indeed out of building, and many others who maybe they never left Oak Cliff, but they're still there. They're still here with us and making it happen every day. Where I see the Veggie project in the pantheon and the connection, the community of the work we're doing, is as eventually to be a vanguard program that provides support and education to anyone who wants to get into this space or remain in this space, and anyone who wants a safe and healing starting point or continuation point. I think that we have a good understanding of our environment and the challenges that we face, and that we are able to both create and build. We're able to both build and destroy. Like, we are able to build the necessary infrastructure that's going to help to empower the community, and that we will be able to destroy the all the negative things that are currently impacting the community and keeping it from finding itself and its power. And that people will find us, and they will know that they are not alone. Any revolutionary act, no matter what it looks like on the outside, is always guided by a great love and understanding for the people. It has to be, and it has to be about empowerment. So I see us as a vanguard empowerment program, redefining what nonprofit work looks like within the community, and changing the narrative of Oak Cliff, and bringing us all back to the table together to say, like, this is my neighbor, and how they live, how I live, how we live together is just as important as how they live out separate from my household, and that we are fostering that kind of partnership. So Oak Cliff and beyond, West Dallas, South Dallas, like, Oak Cliff didn't even want to become a part of Dallas officially, like be annexed by Dallas to be a part of the city of Dallas. They said, like, no, you got to bring West Dallas in with us. So I know that people from Oak Cliff have a great sense of love and understanding, and those of you who are in Oak Cliff doing the good work, please know that you are not alone. Please keep doing that work. Reach out to us. We'll help you as much as we can. Again, we are about health and wellness and empowerment for our community, and for as many communities as we can touch within our area, and wherever the digital realm will carry our voices and our message. Mama, I love you. Thank you for starting this whole thing. I remember when I was younger, you wanted us to, we were worried about how our relationship would develop. But as we have moved into our now adult to adult, child to parent relationship, just know that you have created something amazing.
something that is supported by so many people, and that you are loved not just by myself and the rest of this beautiful family that you have created, that you are loved by this community that has opened their arms to you. Because my mom's she's a city girl from New York. She's a Harlemite, and came down here when she met a good old country boy, Ples Montgomery III, and he was like, I'm not living in New York, and I think she was trying to get out of New York anyway. So we are. I'm definitely glad that I picked her to incarnate and come into this world, and we're not gonna stop. Like we're at a challenging point in the operations of the Veggie Project, but we know that we're not gonna give up the work that we have done. And there's a lot of opportunities that are on the table right now that we are fostering and working through and cultivating. Got things in the kitchen simmering, so to speak. And so we're gonna keep those things moving, and we want to build this bridge between Fort Worth and Dallas. Also, that's what I'm really working on now, because there's area in Fort Worth that is very much like the Oak Cliff community, and has been treated as such by the Fort Worth community at large. Those are the powers that be, and so we are bridging that gap, because there's people from Dallas will get up, and Oak Cliff, they get up and drive to Houston every day of the week. But you'd be like, hey, have you ever been out to Fort Worth? They'd be like, Fort Worth? That's so far. That's on the other side of the world. I ain't going down there. But it is, Fort Worth is a great space, just like Dallas is a great space. So again, this is about empowerment, and part of empowerment is bridging between communities that are in need of support, that have the resources and the minds to support each other and build each other up.
That's beautiful, man. As we close this out, I just want you to share with the audience on how they can find you and how they can financially support you. And I'll also include this information, the replay and the caption as well. So just for everyone listening, it's important that we put our dollars into organizations that are doing the real work. You know, there are larger nonprofits and larger institutions that have more resources and capacity. The biggest impact that you in my opinion, the biggest impact that your dollars are going to make are those local organizations who are on the ground doing the hard work, that are hand to hand, and you see them on a regular basis to build trust with. So, Ples, as we close out, could you tell people how they can find you in the Oak Cliff Veggie Project and how they can financially support you?
So you can find us online, www.oakcliffveggieproject.org. On Instagram, it's OC Veggie Project, and on Facebook, it's the Oak Cliff Veggie Project. We have you can support us. You can donate at our website. You can donate on site at our every second Saturday of the month. We have our current program is called Cultivate the Community. It's our dual program where we have the food distribution, the fresh produce distribution, as well as it's a community garden kind of work day. So if you're looking for an opportunity to learn about how to grow and cultivate your own produce, you can come out and just kind of get your hands dirty with us in the garden. We have some people there that know very much what they're doing, others that don't. Again, this is about coming to the table or to the garden as we have to learn and to expand your reach within the community and meet great people. It's one of the other things that I love about what we have going on, is that we are creating a space where people are meeting each other, and other organizations are being formed, and business deals are being made, and community is being cultivated truly. So please, definitely all your financial support is welcome. We have a community cold storage. Again, it's talking about building infrastructure in partnership with a group called 4 Down. This is a group of skateboard kids, right? Like one of these guys, he was like a prodigal skateboarder out of Dallas, native to the Dallas area, white guy. And him and his partners, they built a free skate park. It's one of the only free skate parks in the nation that has like this full half pipe access, and that's not something that you normally get, from my understanding at least, not something that you normally get in the skateboarding until you become a professional, right? And so there at this skate park, there's a food rescue operation. They partnered with us we built the community cold storage, and they were like, yes, you could set it on we put it on our property, and now we have food rescue program running out of there every Sunday. Shout out to Teresa. She's doing a great job working with that program, and that supports about almost like 250 families every Sunday. And it's open for the community. So if you're growing produce and you don't have anywhere to take it, you can't like really, you're not selling it, or you can't trade it with your neighbors. Like, we have a community cold storage that we want to start bringing that stuff into, so we can make sure that it will get out to somebody and it doesn't go to waste. Again, we're talking about building infrastructure. The other thing we're building there with them is a vertical farming hydroponic system. So the vertical ramp is going to have a vertical hydroponic system under the ramp, where we will be educating our youth. We'll be partnering with schools and summer camps to bring kids in, and not only to learn how to cultivate, but to also learn the business of farming. So understanding that age-old equation: how much does it cost you to make this thing, and then how much do you need to sell it for in order so that you're making a profit, right? Again, empowerment programming is what we were all about in spaces that create safety and welcome feelings for everyone. So shout out to all those people, and that's how you can help us out. We have those programs actively being built right now. Also with 4 Oak Cliff, we're building another. We work with them with our farmers market every first and second Saturday of the month at the 4 Oak Cliff campus. It's at one of the original Black YMCAs, what used to be the original Black YMCA in Dallas, in Oak Cliff, 907 East Ledbetter. First and second Saturday of every month is a farmers market there. Only locally grown businesses, and all about health and wellness vendors are going to be there. So you'll find produce there, and you'll find all kind of other health and wellness products there. Even we have the hospital system that comes out. You can get a quick checkup. They'll talk to you. We got food demonstrations going on. We got the radio stations coming out. They doing music. So it's a good time to bring your family out on the first and third Saturday. So this Saturday coming up, you can come in and check it out. And that's how you can really support the community and the movement and what we got going on right now. Definitely all financial help is welcome every day. And finally, I just like to shout out to my wonderful wife, Whitney Johnson Aziman. We have our first child coming into the world here in the next couple of weeks. So if everybody, say put a prayer up, or say a mantra, or whatever your thing is, and on the birth and the wellness for my wife as she brings this life into the world. And coming up in the next couple of weeks, man, like this is when you talked about earlier how like what have I learned about myself and what I can do, like being a father. Yeah, I feel like I learned this in the last 10 years just doing it, because it was definitely not on the radio, on the radar when I was running the yard.
Well, man, I absolutely appreciate you, taking time on your Thursday. You have a lot going on these connections and building capacity. You mentioned that you feel like y'all are the building phase. I think you're yes, you might be in the building phase, but you've done something very impactful where people want to be a part. I mean, to combine food culture and community with skate culture, but use that same resource to build a way to grow more food, as innovative as it is, and you find a way to use food to build community and have those conversations. So I'm definitely honored to have you on here, knowing you for some years and seeing where you're going, the impact that you're making. We're right down the road in Oklahoma City, and definitely want to stay connected to you and help you with what you have going on. We definitely be doing a whole lot more work out in the Dallas area as we grow and we expand beyond Oklahoma. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk to you, and hopefully the audience has learned a lot about some new things about Dallas and Oak Cliff, and the work that you're doing and what they can do to impact communities outside of whether it's Oklahoma, wherever you are, to make those efforts to do some great things in the community.
Can I say one more thing as far as support is concerned? Because we are in a growth phase, we are looking and accepting applications for new board members. Because as we grow, we want to make sure we're taking all the proper steps, and we really need some. If you're looking to get on the ground floor of it, I mean, we've been in operation as a certified nonprofit since
13, I believe. But we are, again, we're in the growth phase, so we're looking for new ambitious board members to help us get more organized, to plot and strategize more efficiently, so that we can truly create empowerment. So if that is on your agenda as a professional out there, we need all levels of it. Somebody who can come in and help us with HR management, with grant management, with operational capacity management, financial management, overall operational structure management. Like we really are. That's another major focus that we have right now. So I believe myself to be very teachable as the current executive director, or as harbinger, as I like to call it. Just being the word and the arm of it. I'm very teachable and ready to learn, and to make sure that we are building an operation that does what we say we do in a way that is most equitable for the community.
And I love it, man. And like I said, thank you for joining on. We're gonna take off here and close out the podcast. Like I said, man, I'm super proud of you, and definitely praying for you and your wife and the new life that you're bringing into this world. I know you'll be a great father, great role model, the same way that you're working to build community for Dallas, for Texas, for Oak Cliff. I know you'll be doing a great job as a father. So I thank you for that. We'll definitely stay in contact. But y'all, this concludes episode 7, the jewel episode for the Bigger Than Food podcast. And my name is Apollo Woods, representing AFIA to the day we die, baby. And y'all, share this episode to the people that you know, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us, as we have a new episode coming next week, and we'll post our next guest. But make sure you support the Oak Cliff Veggie Project and work that they're doing. I'll put the link up here again, so you'll be able to see how you can support them. Support them financially. Reach out to them. This is an organization that's impactful in the work they're doing in the Dallas area. This is also an organization you can model in your own communities, because what we believe is our mission is bigger than food, and we can do many things to bring people together, and food is just one to strengthen our culture in Black communities across the country and the diaspora. So we'll see you around. We'll see you next week, next Thursday, 12 o'clock, same bad time, same bad channel.